is what time it is. Let's check the streams. Are we live? In fact, are we in fact live? We are live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. My name is Keith, and we are broadcasting live from Austin, Texas. It is 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Welcome to DevJobs Daily. I broadcast Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. I'll go longer if the chat gets interesting. But that's kind of our... That is kind of our daily groove. And I created the stream specifically to help people who are in the job search in tech, primarily for programmers, but we're open to all kinds of tech workers as a place for them to check in, hang out, and get their job applications out while we look at some job trends and some news in tech. We talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that. Don't get too spicy around here. It's a little too early in the morning for me to get all worked up, but I do have a caffeinated beverage of the Monster variety. That's adding a little juice to the system. How are we doing this morning? Are we ready to get a job today? Is today the day we're going to get out that app and get a response back from an app you put out last week? Finally get that phone call for the interview. Finally get that offer. Is today the day? Might be. Might be. There are jobs that are out there. And let's look at those job numbers. So, what we're looking at here are three graphs showing the last 7 days, the last 6 months, and the last year in terms of the number of job postings for JavaScript developers. And what we can eke out from that is some trend lines. Where are things going? If you look at the last 7 days, we'll see it's been pretty flat. There's a slight downturn, but again, every day it's up a little bit, it's down a little bit. It's all within the kind of margin of error in terms of where we've been, because if you look at the last 6 months, the number's been relatively flat. It's got a little bit of ups and a little bit of downs. Right now it's about midpoint for where it's been in that little roller coaster ride that we look at every morning. But nothing too shocking. It's not going up a whole lot. It's not going down a whole lot. It's just sort of hanging out with all the uncertainty in the air. Most of this I would lay squarely at the feet of this current administration. You can agree with what they're doing or disagree with what they're doing, but in the short term it has created a lot of chaos, and that chaos is showing itself up in the course of companies uncertain about their future, circling the wagons, doing hiring freezes. They're still hiring, but they're only hiring essential people. Essentially, they lose somebody, they'll backfill that position, but they're not ready to cut out in a huge growth movement. They're not really ready to take on a bunch of people and unleash that creativity to build new products, to build new features, to build new businesses. Lots of recession talk. It's not here yet, but lots of concern about it. All that concern leads to tight wallets. Tight wallets means less growth, right? So these are the numbers for entry-level JavaScript developers. I have been tracking these numbers for almost 3 years because of my day job. My day job is managing a coding school. That coding school has been around for 11 years. I started with the organization part-time as a teacher. I've been a professional developer for over 30 years. And I've split my time during that 30 plus years between instruction work and production work. And this is kind of where I settled in the last 4 or 5 years, in this sort of full-time position of managing this coding school. So we have traditionally been a boot camp, and that boot camp puts out a lot of qualified young entry-level developers, and so that's been my focus. But starting this year, really starting last year, we focused on upskilling as opposed to 0 to 1 developers, and as a result, I started tracking that number more granularly. So if we look at these graphs, what we see, these charts, this is all of the JavaScript jobs in the US, posted on Indeed. And the red number is for the remote workers, because that's an important number if you're in the job search, so that you can expand past your own zip code in employment opportunities. And tracking that trend is important. Again, these numbers have been flat since the inauguration, but we're just waiting. We're waiting for the shoe to drop, some good news, some stability, and then companies will be off to the races. We're waiting on that. We are waiting on it patiently. But in the meantime and in between time, you will see that there are job numbers. There are new jobs being posted every day. That's our goal, right? So I've also broken it down by mid-level, senior level, and entry-level roles, which is what you see on this graph. This is in all of the U.S., not necessarily your locale or remote. And then we see the remote version of this right here. Again, I always think the interesting thing about these graphs is the remote, because of all this return to office stuff that we see. We don't see a whole lot of dip in this number. It's been pretty stable and consistent. With all the press that we're seeing from, the government making a return to office notice, and a bunch of FANG large companies giving return to office notices, we're just not seeing that in the job numbers for the greater tech space. Certainly not in the developer space. Again, if you are a senior developer and you know how to manage your time, companies want to keep you happy. They don't want to lose you. So you're more likely to be able to work remotely, or at least even during a return to office notice, continue to work remotely. So those are interesting numbers. The other thing I like to do is spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. That's where the recruiters are. That's where the job postings are. They have their own job board, which of course you should be on if you're not. And they are it's also a great place to look at news that often affects our industry. So when I went through and did a quick scan of the news today, I saw a couple of news stories that might catch our eye. Let's talk about those. OpenAI is close to finalizing $40 billion in funding that would lift the company's valuation $300 billion. According to Bloomberg, citing anonymous sources, the total would make the round led by SoftBank the largest single fundraising round in history. Meanwhile, according to anonymously sourced reports from both Bloomberg, CNBC, OpenAI, it expects to see an annual revenue triple this year, growing to $12.7 billion and $3.7 billion it amassed from the $3.7 billion it amassed in 2024, though its expenditures remain high, far from being self-sustaining, or else they wouldn't need another $40 billion. These companies are playing a high-stakes poker game with with this. At the end of the day, there's only going to be a handful of these companies that win, quote unquote, whatever that looks like in the AI race. But the real winner, damn it, is you and me. We are the winners because right now we're getting access to all these AI models, and they're giving us a subsidized, cheap rate for that stuff. So, if you're entrepreneurial, um, like I have been in my career, uh, now is a great time to be utilizing these models to develop code, to write business plans, to create copy, to generate imagery. I spent time yesterday with OpenAI's new image model that they put into ChatGPT, and I gotta say, it lives up to the hype. um, it's not it's not perfect, but it's so much better than everything else I've tested. I've given it some tricky things I've tried with other models, and have been continually disappointed with the other models. Midjourney I pay for. In general, I like the model, but like there are certain things you ask for, it's just not good at giving you the right response for them. And this one, holy mackerel! Like first try, knocks it out of the park. Second try, again, not 100%, but like 92% of what you want. And the rest can be tweaked and photoshopped, right? So, amazing. Really, really stunned by the output of this new ChatGPT model. And I'm not paying extra for it. It's my same $20 a month. It's like when I pay for Amazon's Prime and get free shipping. I had a shipment waiting for me at the front door before I got up this morning. And then along with that'd be enough for the price of admission for Amazon's Prime. But then they also give me TV and other stuff. I don't mostly I just use the TV and the Prime, but you get this bundle of interesting stuff. And it's all because they're all just competing. They need to see those numbers, those usage numbers, because that's how they justify that funding round. So we're getting the fire sale before the companies even get off the ground, as opposed to when they shut their doors. Speaking of shutting their doors, fire sale. 23andMe, we have been tracking that this week. They declared bankruptcy over the weekend, or they announced that they're going to. And there was a mad rush, myself included, because I've been a big supporter of them for really since their inception, to go and delete their data. There was a mad rush on Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember. And I got in the queue to get my data downloaded, but that was taking forever. And I was getting a little nervous. Probably should have waited, but I didn't. I just deleted my data, so I'm not going to be able to download it. I just decided, you just never know what's going to happen, who it's going to end up with in bankruptcy. So, not going to chance it. Now, it may be that, they're just lying to me and they didn't delete the data and there's a backup of it somewhere and it's going to get leaked out on the dark web. Who knows what's going to happen? But you can only do what you can do. You can control what you can control. Let's see. Delinquent student debt hits $250 billion. Nearly 10 million borrowers were behind on their student debt payments at the end of last year, at the end of the COVID-era relief period. According to new data by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the report found that 15.6% of federal student loans were past due, a record high amounting to more than $250 billion in delinquent debt. The new student loan delinquencies can significantly ding users' credits, including and and particularly for those with high scores. Um, so this person said, I took out an MBA loan that will cost $1 million over the lifetime of the loan. I'll be paying for this amount back with my Social Security checks until my death. Interest rates equal to the federal loan rate could change everything. I took out an MBA loan that will cost $1 million over the life of the loan. That is something. So my wife is an attorney. She went to college. She got a couple of degrees. She was able to get through college without student loans. Her parents paid for an undergraduate degree. She started a law degree before we got married. After we got married, she finished it up and did not take on debt in order to do that. I was a bit of a self-starter and did not go to college. I am self-educated and did not end up with debt. My two kids, I have one in college right now and another one is a high school senior. He'll be starting college in the fall. We have put aside money to pay for their college so they won't have that college debt. But that, undergraduate degrees is as expensive as they've gotten. You can kind of still manage and walk away. But man, an MBA, it's not a useless degree, but the Yale MBA, is it really worth that? I don't know that it is. I mean, clearly she's working, she's got a job using that MBA, but she can't pay off her student loans until she dies. Like, I don't know, man. Where do you spend your money? What's your return on investment? These are the times we live in. StubHub. The ticket resale platform StubHub submitted paperwork to go public this week, but there was a curious omission in its S1 filing. Jeff Fleur, who co-founded the company with Eric Baker and served as its CEO until 2007, was not mentioned in the filing, which reportedly credited Baker as the sole founder. Fleur addressed his absence in a LinkedIn post, noting, "It appears old wounds are deep enough to lie about the company's founding stories." Yeah. This is the soap opera that is tech startups. And there we go. There's the top post. I co-founded StubHub with Eric when we were first-year students at Stanford Business. I wrote the 2-page executive summary. I dropped out to be StubHub CEO, built the team, built the product, signed our first major partners. Meanwhile, Eric elected to finish business school and joined 18 months later in the summer of 2001 as a remote employee based in LA, focused on PR. Put all this in perspective, as co-founders, we agreed to a 75-25 equity split, with me getting the larger share. In 2004, Eric and I started having disagreements about the future direction of the company. Eric left the company. 3 years later, eBay acquired StubHub, a deal I worked closely on. So imagine my surprise when I read the S1 describing Eric Baker as the sole founder of StubHub. In fact, my name didn't appear once. In an attempt to rewrite history, Eric has erased me from the story and written me out of the S1 at a time when we should all be celebrating StubHub's success. It appears Old wounds are deep enough to lie about the company's founding story. To Eric's credit, he did a great job building via GoGo, buying StubHub from eBay, and navigating through COVID. But the facts are the facts. I agree with Greg. It's important to set the record straight. Interesting. Well, there you go. Old wounds run deep. Medical research cuts. Healthcare researchers and scientists are reeling from funding cuts. The NIH, which have derailed years of work and upended careers. The research sector has seen thousands of layoffs and widespread hiring freezes, according to published reports. Graduate departments have also limited the size of their programs to the Trump administration. After the Trump administration terminated billions of dollars in grants, even as the decision is currently being litigated in court, programs are facing cutbacks that have ranged from research to cancer to vaccines to the COVID-19 virus. Yeah, one of the things that has been coming out in this is the thing about these ongoing studies is that you've been collecting data in some cases for years on a particular study, and then there's an interruption. You can't afford to continue to collect that data. Sometimes you can bounce back from that if the interruption is not that long. But in other cases, essentially, it messes up the whole study. And, you've invested years in collecting data, and then ultimately you don't get the final result that you were hoping for, because in these multi-year studies, you just have to be consistent. You have to be clean in the way that you collect your data. And an interruption in the collection of the data, or the manpower and how you manage the data collection, can really derail ongoing long-term projects. And so we may be feeling the brunt of this for years to come in this certain sector. And of course, it's affecting drug delivery. I mean, new drugs. We all need that. We all benefit from that. Let's see what we got. I'm seeing these Ghibli images all over the place from the new OpenAI. I don't know why that's the thing that connected with people. I mean, I guess it's like a certain segment, but in the 90s, like, people who liked Ghibli, maybe things have changed and I'm out of touch with that, but the Ghibli stuff was always very niche, art housey kind of stuff. Like, I saw Princess Mononoke in the theater, and in the art house theaters, I saw a bunch of Ghibli films in the 90s, but you'd bring it up in conversation, like, hey, I went to go see this Studio Ghibli film. You didn't even really talk too much about the studio as much. You just talk about the film, and most people hadn't heard of it. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. But I don't know why that style is really caught on. You can do so many things with that new model. Most of which are, style infringements. So I'm not sure why that's the one that kind of caught on. North Korea oversees tests of new AI-equipped suicide drones. Oh boy, here we go. Observes tests of North Korea's new reconnaissance and attack drones. Italian newspaper says it's published the world's first AI-generated edition. Okay. AI has been in segments of the newspaper for many years. When you read the recap of the sports page, more times than not, that's been generated by AI. OpenAI adopts rival Anthropic's standard for connecting AI models to data, MCP. If you, as a programmer, are not on that MCP tip, you need to be. Uh, I'm doing amazing stuff every day with these MCP connections. And I haven't started playing around with the most powerful one yet, Zapier. I've watched some videos on it, and I'm going to be doing it at some point, but I just haven't had anything this week to do with it. But I gotta connect that Zapier and get to work, doing some really cool stuff. How are we doing on time? A few more minutes. Okay. Will AI soon outsmart humans? Play this puzzle to find out. Leading AI models fail a new test of artificial intelligence. A new AI test is outwitting OpenAI. LLMs hit a new low. Pure LLMs score 0%. Okay. Watch these key NVIDIA stock price levels as selling in AI favorite accelerates. Okay. Not a ton of stuff there. Let's see. A lot of phone stuff, a lot of game stuff. Not interested in that. What about the internet? Supreme Court likely uphold an $8 billion phone and internet subsidy program. $8 billion phone and internet subsidy program. Supreme Court to hear non-delegation challenge to telecom access program. U.S. Supreme Court leans toward preserving FCC's fund for fun and broadband access. We've been talking about this stuff since the 90s, when I was really getting involved in tech and the internet started popped up. At the time, we were talking about the digital desert that is rural broadband. Well, we weren't talking about broadband then. We were just talking about internet access. But as broadband started to take hold, you had to run a lot of cable, and it was very expensive. And you could do that in dense cities where you had lots of customers that could use your service, but in rural areas spread out, it just didn't make financial sense for private companies to lay a bunch of cable for houses that are a mile apart from each other. And so the government, the digital divide was a real thing, and it has consistently been a real thing. And the government responded to help with that. The question is now, with things like Starlink and other technologies, is it as necessary, I guess? I don't know. I don't live in a rural area, so I don't have a finger on that pulse. Let's see. Oh, we're coming up on top of it. So, time to wrap it up. Getting those job applications out. My name is Keith. If you joined late, I am broadcasting Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we look at job posting data as well as stories in tech. And really, it's all just a place to hang out while you're getting your job applications out. If you know somebody who's in the job market who could use a friend to hang out with when they get up in the morning and get their job applications out every day, please share this with them. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to grow my network. I will be back here tomorrow in 23 hours and 30 minutes. In the meantime and in between time, have